Well, hello and welcome everybody to the next installment of the Originator Connect Network webinar series. This is an exciting event and a day for us today as we're going to get rolling here. We're going to give you a little bit of a snapshot of some of the abilities of this system really quickly as we get rolling here. Hang tight for just a second and watch this great little intro video. All right, guys. Well, today's event is a very profound event that I'm excited to be able to bring to you guys. As the director of the Originator Connect Network Online Engagement Team, we've been working very hard behind the scenes to be able to bring some really cool programming to this network of originators and to be able to provide you guys the kind of value that I know you all are looking for in how to grow your business. So today, we've got a team of 5 of the top originators in the country, guys who are consistently doing 20-plus loans a month or have done that or even way beyond multiple times throughout their career. And today's event is really focused on how to create the best 2018 possible for you, your production team, and help you really craft that vision and implement that business that's going to give you the ideal lifestyle that you want. So I'm going to take just a moment and introduce our panelists for just a minute. The first one up is Brandon Abedin, who is the owner of Intelligent Mortgage Group in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. A very experienced originator. Brandon, why don't you share a little bit about your background, just real quick, 30 seconds or so, where you came from, where you've been, and where you are now.
Okay. Good morning, Brandon Abedin, president, owner here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. My background was total opposite of this industry. Fitness, kinesiology, went to college for that. Got into mortgages because I was great with talking to people, and started in the business 18 years ago at 21 years old. So been in the business since 2000, and it's been a great journey from strictly refinance subprime to now being a almost fully purchase-related business. So got in this young and fell in love with it, fell in love with helping people and the excitement of the close, and it's been a good ride. Hired a great coach a few years back that helped me turn my business from refi to purchase, and we'll talk more about that as we get further into this.
Absolutely. And guys, you know, a lot of production there too. So, all right, second one up is we're going to go ahead and introduce Lisa. Why don't you go ahead and hop on in here and share a little bit of your background. Lisa is a very experienced originator, one of the top, over 300 loans, 10 years out of the last 11, came from a credit union environment. Lisa, tell us a little bit about what's kind of taken place in your life in the last couple of years here.
Well, hello everyone. I was with Wisconsin, with a local credit union for 27 years, and a year ago I made the decision to move into a mortgage environment strictly with the company that I'm at now. So it was a huge shift from the credit union philosophy and the credit union way of doing things into the strictly mortgage lending. But it's been great. I have loved it. I've been actually lending out of the 28 years in banking. I've been lending for the last 17.
Awesome, awesome. All right, next up, let's see, John Murray. John, if you want to go ahead and pop up your screen. And remember, panelists, if you would, please mute your microphone when you're not actually speaking so that the right feed cam comes up. John, why don't you go ahead and share a little bit about your background as I believe you're the veteran in the group, or at least the longest in the industry, right?
I'm the looks of the rest of the panelists. I think I am. I've been doing this since '86. I don't know if you can see my screen because I'm using a microphone, but yeah, I started doing this right out of college, and I've been doing it ever since. I run a sales team, about 32 loan officers at Mortgage Financial. Been doing that. I've been here since 1990, and we're now part of a larger company called Lend US, so we're all across the country, and I just love what I do, and I just can't stop originating. So I've always been a producing manager as well as kind of running the whole sales force.
Awesome, awesome. And you've done, as I remember, a little over $2 billion in career originations over the course of your illustrious years, and you've had some years where you've definitely done 80, 90, 100 loans in a single couple of months. What's your best year ever?
It was 168 million, and I did about 700 loans. So I've done that a couple of times. Not that many, but I've done a couple 100 million loans probably about 7 or 8 times. And so it's been crazy. So you have 32 years of those, you can add up to a lot of loans.
Definitely. All right. Next up, I'm going to have Eddie Reed. Eddie, a good friend of mine from a unique little part of town, a part of the world. Why don't you go ahead and share kind of your unique environment and background?
Sure, Eric. Let's see, I'm about 15 years in the business, and work for a small community bank, cover multiple branches, got a few loan officers. We're currently growing, and I'm just south of Memphis in North Mississippi. A little bit of a unique market. We don't have a large loan size, so we just have to do more loans. But yeah, I've definitely grown the business. Looking at probably our best year ever coming up. Almost all purchase referral-based business.
Right. You and your team right now are doing somewhere in the neighborhood of about 20 loans a month, right? Maybe a little more?
Right. We're actually
just your personal production, plus you've got a little more in the branch, right?
Correct. That's right.
Okay. All right. And last but not least is Miss Patty Marquez, folks. Patty, why don't you go ahead and share a little bit about your background and story?
Hi, everyone. Patty from West Texas, and I've been in the business right over a decade, 11 years, I suppose, and I do mostly purchase business, and we do also have a smaller loan amount, so we have to do a bunch of loans to amount to big volume, but I've created a great team and are cranking and rolling, so got some
definitely.
good ideas.
2017 total production for you was what, 350 loans for what, about 40 million, I think you said, in 2016, and then 2017 you bested that by a little bit, right?
Personal production, yes.
Yeah, definitely. And then you've got a couple of other branches. So, folks, we've got a lot of experience in the room. And by the way, one of the things you guys might want to do in the resources tab that you can open in the platform, there's a bunch of tools that we've provided for you that are going to help you get the most out of today's event. One of which is the download of the action guide, which just gives you some tools and resources you can use for taking notes and give you some pointers and guidance. also some of the other tools you can get in there, we'll get into a little bit later. But really, one of the things that we find, and I've had the privilege and honor of basically doing training and development and coaching full time for the past now almost 15 years. And one of the things that we realize, there's a lot of originators out there who get to the 4, 5, 6 loans a month and just get stuck. I mean, they're at the point where they're pulling their hair out. They're working 60, 70-hour weeks, and they can't even imagine doing much more than that. And by the way, it's rarely the 5 loans a month consistently. It's the 7 or 8 one month and 1 or 2 the next, because of the dynamic of the work involved. And so one of the first questions I'm going to ask and start with the panel on is, when you guys all went through that process of breaking past that 5 loan barrier or that 10 loan barrier or that 18 or 20 loan barrier, what were the things that helped you see the bigger picture, helped you realize and break through those belief barriers as you went through that production growth? And Brandon, I'm going to go ahead and start with you on this one, because you had a unique approach to how you did it. And so Brandon, why don't you go ahead and hop in here for me and kind of share thoughts?
Yeah, my first thought, and the first thing I would tell everybody watching, you have to figure out, what do you want? Do you want a growth company or do you want profit? And if you want to grow and you want to grow your business, are you willing to take a pay cut in order to do that? And the first thing Eric and I talked about is hiring that right assistant was a key part of that. Of course, making the transition from refinance to purchase was a huge hurdle and a huge obstacle as well. So that was the first thing. And then you've also got to sit there and really think, what do you want? Are you willing to sacrifice family time, vacation time, nights, weekends? Are you really willing to commit to work 6, 7 days a week, 10, 12 hours a day, and do that every week for a couple of years? You really have to make that commitment, or it's not going to happen. You're going to have the typical loan officer boom and bust cycle, up and down production, because you're not doing it every single day to the fullest. So that was really kind of the realization I had to come to, was I have to make this sacrifice and I have to put in the work before anything, because everything else, the tools and some of the other things we're going to talk about, won't matter if you don't follow those consistent disciplines every day. And then raising your standard. You get comfortable $100,000 a year. That sounds like a good income. So if that's your goal and you're comfortable there, then you're not going to push past that. So you have to raise the standard. Well, you're not happy at 6 loans a month anymore. Six loans a month doesn't pay the bills anymore, and you have to push for something greater. And there's got to be something else pushing you beyond that. Whatever it is that motivates or gives you a purpose, you need to find that as well, because there's got to be something that drives you to want more. And if you want that family time, that vacation time, and you're comfortable at 80 or 100 grand a year, then you can do that too. But if you want that 20 loan a month number, 30 loans a month, and you want to make the 6, 7 figures, then it's going to come down to exceptionally hard work and a lot of time in the office and out marketing and doing the things that you need to do to build your business.
Yeah, definitely. All right, John, why don't you go ahead and hop in here and share with us your thoughts in respect to what were the things that pushed you beyond that initial first couple of stages of the 5 loans a month and into that next category or strategy?
It's funny. I kind of went right into the fire. It sounds bizarre, but the company I worked at was the first company in the country to break below 10%. So we hit 9.99, and you would have thought and it would sound insane now with that kind of a rate, but you would have thought we were giving away money. And so my very first month, I did $6 million over like 65 loans. They were little loans back then, and but everybody around me was doing $12 million. So I actually thought I was going to get fired. So because I had no idea that was I had no concept. So I learned quickly after the stagflation and oil prices and everything else went jumping up in 87, 88, how quickly that could be taken away from us. So that's amazing. But I think, what I learned from that, though, is it's what your peers are. And I think you've got to try to get an accountability partner that you can work with, that whether you're doing pick someone else who's doing a little bit more volume than you, and kind of test each other. I always went after the top person in my company, and if I wasn't first or second, I was really not happy with myself. But like Brandon says, the guy at the top of the mountain didn't just get there. You've got to work. You've got to be the first in and last out. You've got to set up your appointments and meet with the real estate agents, get your referral partners for lunches, and I was at one seminar, which is so true. They talked about when your client, when they give you a referral, they're like French fries. You've got to get back to them quickly, or they're going to get stale and they'll taste awful. So you've got to get back to your clients when they call you and not push those calls off, because that was someone that gave you their referral. And I really get upset with myself if I don't get back to someone within a couple of hours, if not the same day. So that's a big part of it. And do the basics, and send them thank you notes and things like that kind of back to the old school. But it really, if you do the work and put it in, you're going to do really well in this business. But it doesn't just happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. And of course, you've broken through multiple layers of different ceilings of capacity over the course of your career. So obviously, there's been some serious motivation there to continue that path. But that initial taste of success and the possibility of it, I'm sure had a lot to do with what's driven you to continue to break through barriers multiple times over the course of your career. All right, let me go ahead and jump over to Patty for a few minutes. Patty, if you want to go ahead and hop in here and kind of share your story, what drove you, because you've got a kind of unique approach on it, and probably one of the more heartfelt ones that I always, every time I think about it, I get a little teary-eyed. But why don't you go ahead and share your story?
A little teary-eyed because I was one of those loan officers that was doing 3 to 4 loans a month, and I had no life. I was doing everything I could to try to get 3, 4 deals done a month and keep my sanity. That was impossible. And I would hear about these top producers that are doing 15, 20 loans a month. And I'm like, that's not even possible. Not in my market, that's just not possible. So I was smart enough to know that I didn't know it all. So I seek the help to teach me what it was to make me more efficient and hone in on what I was good at so that I can increase my production. I started out with 3 to 5 deals a month and quickly went to 8 and 10 and have gone up to 50 deals a month and have been, you tell me 5 years ago, 7 years ago that I would have been doing 50 loans in a month, I would have told you you're crazy. And unlike Brandon, I do like to take vacation and I do like to take time off. I've got an awesome team that allows me to be able to do good production. But I have a little one. I have a 3-year-old, and I've got 3 older children, 18, 15, and 14. And I like to keep a nice work balance. But one thing that I have to be very careful on, and that I learned very early on, is that we don't want to do the roller coaster. Everybody that's been in origination knows a roller coaster. You go out there and get the business, and you're up here, and then you work on the business, and then you get the business and work on the business. And that's just really the way that I was accustomed to, when, being 100% commission. It was like, okay, that's just the way it is. It doesn't have to be that way. Now I think of it more as a conveyor belt. And you get the deals going in on that conveyor belt. And what the work that I do today is going to pay me in 90 days. So every day I have to be consistent and working on that. And sometimes it has to be weekends. Sometimes it has to be in the evening time. And there has to be a lot of work. But, I've heard some people that, work 5 hours a week and close, 5 million in a month. I mean, that's not realistic. It's not going to happen. But it is realistic to be able to do a lot of production and to have a nice balance. But I don't do it all by myself. I'm smart enough to know that I can't do it by myself, and I have to get the right people on my team to be able to do that. I'm sorry, I don't remember the presenter name right before me, but he said to seek other people, other counsel. I believe iron sharpens iron, so I wholeheartedly believe in that if you find yourself a mentor or something that you can kind of link onto and help you. So I strongly believe in doing conferences and stuff like that to continually be learning and learn different tactics and things like that. There's been times that in my mortgage world, and Eric was the one that I would call. I'd call him my mortgage suicide hotline, and that's what he laughs about. But that's, when I felt like quitting this business, and I'm like, forget mortgages, I don't want to do this anymore. Having somebody to keep me grounded whenever I wanted to lose my mind during the struggles of growing, because those are growing pains suck. I mean, they hurt. But the reward is so rewarding. The outcome is so rewarding. So just keep at it and find what works for you, because not everything works for everyone. So you just have to find what works for you and keep on keeping on, just like Brandon said.
Absolutely. And I'm going to jump in here and say one quick thing about Patty, who hopefully she doesn't slap me for this later. But the reality of it is that when I first met Patty, one of the things that most impressed me about her and what drove her is some of her background and history. Patty, when you used to talk about the drive of your family, being the first person in your family to complete college and the first person in your family who spent most of your growing up life years hearing that you just weren't good enough, and that made you mad and inspired you to push beyond that limit and those barriers that people had tried to put in front of you. Just your level of commitment to following through has always been really impressive to me. Not that everybody else on the panel didn't have similar stories. All right, Eddie, why don't you go ahead and hop in here for me and share a little bit about your experiences and background and what kind of helped you push beyond that initial barrier of 5-6 loans a month.
Okay. Well, I'll definitely agree with Patty. I believe that first and foremost, you have to have an awesome team. You do have to have that conveyor belt, or you'll never be able to do everything by yourself, which is something that we probably all try when we start out, to not give up on some of the parts of the loan process. But a couple of things that I've done is in my approach to getting to originate the amount of loans is to leverage referral sources within the bank, and that's a big part of my success. And then on the real estate side, I've actually worked really hard to become part of a real estate team sales process. I'm inserted in their whole process from beginning to end, and I've got one large real estate team that helped me basically, about 50% production. First year, probably second year, I've got everything from 7 different agents on a large team. So that's really helped bolster the business. But first and foremost, number one, unless you just got this amazing support system, the first thing you have to do is build an awesome team, because if not, you'll struggle with the ups and downs.
Absolutely. So, all right, and not last, not least, but certainly in the order of things as we're talking through it, Lisa Zebarth, why don't you go ahead and hop in and kind of share a little bit about your background and story and kind of what drove you to push to the levels that you did.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, I am the mother of 5. I have 5 children, and 2 of them are very high needs, special needs children. And so when, my drive is for my family, you have to know your why. You have to know this is not necessarily an easy business, and so you have to have that dedication. You have to have that love of doing what you're doing and knowing why you're doing it. It's that motivator to get you up and keep you going every day that you have to figure out and you have to know. But just as everybody has been talking about, it's that dedication. You can't expect to put that 5 or 10 hours a week into your job and wonder why you're not producing. It is sometimes a 10 and a 12-hour day job to get in and to return those phone calls and to make sure you have a very high level of service when you're talking to people and getting back to them. And over time, you may be able to do 8-hour days once in a while and things like that, but it's the dedication that you really have to have in this business to keep going every single day. But also, you need the organization. With that, as you're going and as you're producing, you need organization to keep everything flowing and being consistent. So you're not reinventing the wheel every time that you are producing a loan or picking up that loan package, if you do the same thing on every package as you're going through and you have that consistency, it's going to be easy for you and you don't have to second guess yourself if you've already done something with that. But basically, too, know your product. If you're not knowing your product and understanding what is going on with a file or a program, you're going to consistently take too much time on one file to be able to go out and grab the next file. So you need to know your product really, really well so you can do what you need to do, make those decisions, don't second guess yourself and go grab the next one. So I was really lucky where I was. I had a very, very good processor that helped me. So I made sure that team that we're talking about, I made sure that I let him do what he needed to do. And I did what I needed to do, and then we got together. If we had questions and needed each other's help, we would get together and do that. But I had to trust the team that I have. And when I left, he actually left before me, came over to where I'm at now, and now he's my assistant here where I'm at. So we continue having that same philosophy here. I do what I need to do, he does what he needs to do, and we come together when we need to. So.
All right, folks, well, we're going to make a quick transition into getting into some of the meat of how to break down the issues or challenges that are going to hold you back. And all of the panelists have had experience with all three of these layers of areas of opportunity for growth and improvement and refinement. You know, by the way, in the action guides, if you guys have had a chance, if you attendees have had a chance to download that, there is an action sheet in here that talks a little bit about helping you clarify your vision and what are the motivations and the things that you want to create proactively about your business or life that's different than what it is today. That vision can often be a catalyst to pushing through those barriers that seem to be difficult or impossible to overcome. Now, where I want to shift gears at this point, though, is I want to talk a little bit more about the layers of obstacles and challenges that you all are likely to experience and how we can work to begin to help you eliminate those layers. By the way, this workshop, this web conference event that we're doing right now is intended to be a very interactive program for all of you in the audience. So what we would really like you to do is, as you go through the next couple of segments, and as the panelists are sharing their input as to the kind of challenges they experienced for the next segment, I'd like you guys to be chiming in and giving us some information and feedback to respond to, because the whole idea here is this is intended to be more of like a town hall meeting where our panelists can hear from all of you in the Originator Connect community. Let us know what you want and need more help with so that we can be able to adapt and adjust to that, what we're doing. Now, of course, as we are going through that process and as you're listening to the panelists talk about some of the challenges and struggles they've each experienced in these three different layers of growth opportunity, I'm going to suggest that you maybe take some notes. Think about the things that you're experiencing now or the things that you've experienced recently or that you're worried about experiencing in the near future as you think about growing beyond the next couple of levels of production. Think 2 or 3 levels ahead. And as these panelists are sharing their information and story here as to what those challenges are. So as I do that, what we're basically going to be looking at is I want to keep I want to get everybody thinking about the next stage of what we've done to overcome the challenges. What are the challenges that you all have experienced? So at this stage, I'm actually going to start and kind of go back to the opposite order this time around. Lisa, since you're our most recent input or panelist, Lisa, if you wouldn't mind, share a little bit about what are the areas that you experience the greatest difficulty in of those 3 areas, lead generation, lead conversion, and building capacity and efficiency. Of those 3 areas, which were the areas that you most struggled with?
For me, it was handling the capacity that I had. I had such volume coming in, and just through being in the business for as long as I have and the environment that I was in and how I handled things with people, they would come back, they would refer people, and my volume just grew and grew. And at some point, it just hit a ceiling where what was I, how can I break through that? And without a really good team and without really good structure, as I was stating earlier, consistency and not reinventing the wheel with each file, it was difficult. It was very difficult. So align yourself with people that you can trust to pass off jobs and duties, and trust that they're going to be able to handle what you've given them, so you can concentrate on other things that you need to, going out and getting those leads. You are a salesman. You need to go out and you need to get as many deals as you're able to on that one. And like I said, trust the people that are working with you to do their job.
Awesome.
So that was probably my greatest one, yeah.
Absolutely. All right, Eddie, what were some of the biggest areas of challenge that you had in the course of your journey from 5 loans a month to the 20 plus that you're at now?
Well, I'm definitely going to agree with Lisa and say that I think the most important is that getting that capacity. And if that's your problem and not necessarily sales, then you're only limited by your capacity. I remember being at an event in Las Vegas, and you were there, Eric, and I kept hearing everybody build a team, and nobody said, okay, how do we build a team? What person do we hire? What do we train them to do? Like Lisa was saying, give them some duties. And every time that I've gone and added an employee, production has been able to grow. So not necessarily sales is not necessarily a problem so much as capacity. And also just, putting yourself out there. I recently went and met with a builder that, a real estate agent that I'm friends with, and I know him. And I was kind of amazed that nobody's calling on him for his business, and he lists $1 million properties. It's kind of like the pretty girl in the pageant. Nobody will ask her out because she's too pretty. Well, I just go after the biggest real estate agents, and that's one way to increase profitability and loan size. So, that's just a couple things that I've done to increase business. And I think what happens when you just keep at it, it seems like everybody here has been here for quite a while, is you just hit critical mass, and it's a snowball effect. And then at some point in time, you better be prepared, or the capacity will overrun, just like it did Lisa.
Absolutely. All right. So next up, let's go ahead and Patty, why don't you go ahead and share, how are the ways, what was the biggest area of struggle for you? Was it lead generation, lead conversion, lead capacity, and what were some of your specific struggles in that area?
I would say lead conversion was probably the biggest struggle for me. I had no trouble getting people that wanted to get a loan. Just the quality of applications that I was getting were not very good. So I had to hone in on how to improve that. One thing that I started to do was everyone's going after these realtors, and everyone's going after, here's my rate sheet and here's some donuts and all of that. And everybody does that. I don't. What I do is I meet with realtors that I target in on, depending on how much they produce and how busy they are. And I've got you've got your big ones, and then you've got the ones that are, that pay the bills type deals. And I hone in on those specifically to have one-on-one goal luncheons, is what I call them. And I have one-on-one meetings with them where we present, I present a value proposition to them for a partnership where it's almost, I have realtors that have reached out to me that they want to have these goal meetings because I want to hear what their goal is, what it is that they want to achieve, and how I can help them achieve that. And part of what I say is, in a good partnership, it's both of us. You have to be a good partner with me. I have to be a good partner with you. And if we can work together, this is what you can expect and the level of service that you can expect. It's almost as like an interview. I feel that those realtor partner relationships that I have built, they have come with a lot of loyalty, where I get 100% of their business. I may not get 50 realtors that send me, a bunch of little, here and there. But the ones that I do have send me all of their business. And when I'm concentrating on the realtors that are doing this full time, that this is the way that they make money. They're not doing this part time, and it's helped increase the lead quality of what I've gotten versus something of just like a Facebook post and things of that sort. So having that relationship with realtor partners, it's also they get to talking in their office, and then I have other realtors from that office calling and saying, "What do I need to do to be one of your realtor partners?" So it's almost like they come seeking me, which because they can call me on the weekends if they need to. They can call me in the evenings. They got my cell phone. Once you build that relationship and that friendship with that realtor, you'll notice that they respect your time a lot more, and they will keep anxious buyers a little bit at bay. So it really, truly is a good partnership. So you can both do more. Both knock out more deals per month, and they love you, we love them, and that's really helped convert the amount of leads to actual real deals for me.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, attendees, I'm going to jump in here one real quick second. You might notice I just posted a poll question asking about what your biggest challenges are to substantial growth. One for our panelists to follow up with later, also for us to be able to interact and respond to. Now, if you want to chat into this poll question, this will only be up for a few minutes, or if you want to go ahead and ask questions as you're thinking of them, as you're hearing our panelists speak about challenges and some of the strategies they've used to overcome the challenges they've experienced. Also, feel free to go ahead and pop them into the Q&A section about some of your specific challenges, your specific questions. And if you would like a particular panelist to address it for you, just go ahead and kind of preface the question with the name of the panelist that you would like to share information on it. You guys want to go ahead and fire those into the Q&A as the rest of the panelists are speaking through this section. That'd be great feedback for us as far as how we can better tailor this program to what you want to find out more information about. Okay, thank you again, Patty, for, by the way, your comments and thoughts. There's a lot of difference in dynamic of how we craft that relationship with those partners and how we convert it to something that's worth more than just the ability to close the one deal and turn it into a relationship that's mutually beneficial. The next layer of it, Brandon, why don't you go ahead and hop in here for us and share some of your challenges. What were your biggest obstacles or challenges as you were going through that transition from 5 to 25 and beyond loans a month?
I think the biggest obstacle were, of course, first to make that jump and make the growth, and then obstacle for most growing businesses is money, cash, to make the expansions, be able to buy the technology, the software, be able to pay the salaries for those personnel to get those really good qualified people. So I think those were some of the bigger obstacles really was of course having the money to make those jumps forward, be willing to sacrifice, take a pay cut in order to look at the long term that we will eventually earn more, but for a while there I'm going to have to sacrifice my income and bring in more personnel to help with the workload. And then again, I mean, just going back to lead generation, that's a big obstacle there. That we were always competing against the juggernauts and the huge billion-dollar companies, the Quicken and the Nose companies like that, and we've got a few here in town that I say they buy the business. So, you know, they're buying every agent in town leads, they're paying their marketing, renting office space from them, and I call it legally buying the business. Competing against that was an obstacle that took a little time to figure out how to overcome, and being able to outperform and beat those bigger companies, which we've done very well, and that's why we continue to grow and take up a bigger chunk of their market here in town.
Awesome, awesome. All right. The next stage I'm going to go to is with the same question as before, which, John, if you wouldn't mind sharing your thoughts and ideas. Again, panelists or attendees, go ahead and chat in or pop in your Q&A questions as to what you would like more information and feedback from our audience, from our group of panelists on. John, why don't you go ahead and jump in and talk a little bit about some of your biggest areas of challenge as you were going through the different stages of growth in your career?
I mean, obviously, the capacity one is one that hits all of us at every level, and figures that my phone. But you know, one of the things that it was one of those seminars that I think you were at. We were all at in Vegas, a mastermind one, where the speaker got up and said that you've got to learn how to do what you do best. Frank Sinatra doesn't get up there and move around the piano or set the stage up. He just gets up and sings. So you've just got to figure out what you're gifted at. Mine is not paperwork, and it's not organization. So I learned a long time ago that I have to have somebody else help me with my paperwork, getting stuff out, having a team behind me, and then building that team. And my team has been with me for years.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So as we're starting to think about the transition, and I'm going to pop up a full question for the attendees to chime in on, but I want to know a little bit more, and as we kind of break it down into these three different particular areas, the solutions to the challenge of lead generation, the solution of the challenge of how to separate or differentiate yourself and create a better lead capture, and the solutions to the issues of capacity expansion is kind of where we're going to direct traffic right now. And one of the things that come along with this is when you start thinking about, you know, how do we accelerate the growth? How do we create that additional layer of additional value? What are those opportunities that are going to help, or those strategies? And again, audience, make sure you're making note of when you hear a great idea from one of our panelists, or when you hear them talking about something that you've not thought of doing that maybe you do want to implement at a higher level. You know, be sure to make note of that, and you can use the action guide, or if you're just using any kind of notepad or scratch pad to chime in. You know, go ahead and hop in. So, Brandon, you know, let's go ahead and kind of continue back. Actually, I'm going to go back to, I apologize. Let's go back to Lisa. Lisa, why don't you go ahead and chime in with what are your what are your solutions, your best solutions to the issue of lead generation? What are the best ways in which you go about finding new business? Oh, Lisa, it sounds like you're probably on mute. Go ahead and unmute yourself real quick before you talk. I know a little bit to keep up with, but. Looks like Lisa was maybe not aware that she's got herself on mute. All right. Well, we're getting back to her. Let's go ahead and go over to Eddie. Eddie, why don't you go ahead and chime in real quick while we're waiting for Lisa to get herself unmuted. Oh. Lisa, are you unmuted now?
I am not. Yeah, I mean, it's there. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, we're hearing you now.
Okay, because I wasn't on mute. I didn't have it on mute earlier, so I'm not sure what's going on. For me, lead generation for me, I go to what's most comfortable for me. And I'm from the banking environment for so long, I don't have any issues walking into a credit union or to a bank and talking with mortgage loan officers about what they have available in their product, and then letting them know how I can help with product that they don't have. And so for me, I'm very comfortable going and talking to fellow, loan officers and telling them, what I can help them with, sending information back to them or sending loans back to them that I can't do. So that's easy for me. But also when I'm working with somebody, handing that business card, remembering to hand that business card out and asking if they know anybody that is looking at, that's renting, that would be looking at getting pre-qualified, moving up in homes, moving down, different things like that. Just anybody that they would have names for, that I would be able to help them and give them the same service that I've already given to, to themselves. And so for me, you have to get out there and you have to ask, but sometimes it's not the big picture of going and getting, lead generations online and things like that. It's that one-on-one and knocking on the doors and walking in and talking to people, for me, works the best.
Awesome. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and shift over to Eddie. Eddie, what are some of your best strategies for lead generation and being in front of new potential business opportunities?
New potential business opportunities. Well, I guess one of the things that I like to do is I like to target the real estate agents I go after, and it's high touch, high relation, highly personable. I play racquetball with my realtors. I'm the president of the tennis association. I cook world-class barbecue and have people over to eat. And, the quickest way to a person's wallet's through their stomach, or maybe it's something like that. But I do a lot of high touch. We're really involved in the community. We do just lots of things that put you in front of a lot of people. And I think from a conversion standpoint, I really try to only court the relationships, whether it's a realtor or not, that send me quality leads. I'm pretty good about firing realtors. You send me 36 leads, I get 2 deals out of it. We're not going to have a relationship. But I think the time spent constantly upgrading the quality of your clients, loan size, and quality of the borrowers is where I've been successful as well.
All right. Okay, so Patty, I'm going to have you jump in next and share kind of what are your best practices and best solutions to the how to generate more leads question.
Okay, well, I saw somebody ask on the Q&A about, other than realtors, what other tactics work and what else have you guys seen success in? And I want to talk about a couple of things that I did that ramped up my business. The first one was I started it whenever I was new to the business, and I couldn't go to realtors and tell them, hey, I've got 10 years of experience and I really know what I'm doing. I was really new, and so I was trying to go out there and generate business, but not really having the experience behind me, although I had a broker at the time that had the experience to guide me with that. I needed to sell myself. So I created a FSBO program, for sale by owner type program, where I would go out and market to any for sale by owner that I saw in the newspaper, on Craigslist or whatever, and give them things of value that didn't cost any money, which to them would be financing flyers that they can put out, in the takeaway box out and by their yard sign. I created a for sale sign for them that would say financing available, and it would have my information. And I would educate them on not letting just anybody go in and see their home, to get them pre-qualified first. So as soon as somebody called that FSBO, they were in turn sending me all this business. Not everybody qualified for that particular home, and that generated a lot of business. So what happened is I started generating a lot of leads without realtors. Realtors got a wind of that and were then seeking me out because I had the gold at that time. So it took consistency every day, hitting the newspaper and calling them and keeping together, knowing which FSBOs I had called on, which ones I hadn't. I created a nice package for them. I would give them what I called the first aid kit, for sale by owner first aid kit, which in essence was just a listing guide that to give them tips on presenting their home and curb appeal and things of that sort. That really grew my business when I first started. So the first 2 years of my business, I really hit that really hard. The first year in the business, I became top loan officer in my company by just doing that. And getting the leads to come to me. Second thing that I come from an insurance background, and we used to do a lot of going to the safety meetings for these big companies and selling them, on the group insurance, or kind of like an Aflac or things of that sort. I brought that to my mortgage world and said, why don't we do that here? So now instead of marketing to just realtors, we're creating a platform to where we can go and market to corporations, local companies with 200 and more employees, and giving them a benefit, a home buyer's benefit, to be able to do that. And any new employee that comes in there, they get this packet from us. It requires maintenance, and you've got to go and every quarter go out and do a safety meeting and take them breakfast or whatever. But it's an account, just like a builder account or just like a realtor account. But nobody's touching those. There's nobody in my town, at least in my market, that's marketing to corporations or bigger companies of, I say 200, but you can say 50 or more. But those are two other ways to generate business that nobody else is chasing.
Absolutely. Awesome. All right, so all right, Brandon, I'm going to shift over to you. Share your thoughts and ideas, and actually, I bet I know what one of your responses is going to be, which is contact management and relationship. So I might have you chime in on one of the specific questions from one of our audience members about CRM and how important that is, and what are kind of your best practices for using robust contact management and lead retention. Brandon, why don't you go ahead and hop in and kind of chime in on that or any other business development strategies that you want to give some insight to.
Okay, so you guys were talking about lead generation and CRMs, that sort of thing. So that goes in with what we were just talking about with the obstacles. So that was a big thing that go back to money. You've got to have the money to invest, and I spent a lot of money on a good website, the phone app. And we personally use Lead Mailbox, but there's a lot of them out there. You need to see which one best fits your whiteboard. There's a couple of other ones I've seen that are very good CRMs. You can even use AIM, some of those that you create your own drips. But having the website, having the app, and having the ability now, my clients can apply online. They can apply through the phone app. It's gotten to a point where it's physically impossible for me to answer every call and talk to every client and do a good quality 30-minute interview. So, again, that's why I have a staff of 12 people, and I also have the website. 75% of my applications now are done online through the website, and then I can talk to the client, go through it after it's been done, or have one of my assistants walk them through it and take over the interview process, and then I'll chime in a little bit and chat with the client. But the time gets spread very thin. So finding the right CRM. If you're lead-based and you're buying leads and you have inbound incoming leads, then a Lead Mailbox is excellent. A Lead 360 is another good one. If you're just doing referrals and you need anniversaries and that sort of thing, you could look at AIM or ACT or one of those softwares like that does the post drifts, and you can even create some of your own content and personalize that. Trying to think of anything else with that. For lead generation, I think you guys were talking about that. I went a different route the last few years because, again, time and efficiency is something I preach quite often, and maximizing my time. Going and having a 2-hour lunch with an agent, and then I'm 2 hours behind when I get back to the office, it got to be too cumbersome, and I couldn't possibly do enough meetings one-on-one, really and truly get personal as much as I would like. So what we switched to and what's been very profitable and productive is more group settings, classes taught here in our office, in our conference room. I teach a lot of classes now. I bring groups in, or I go to the real estate offices and I schedule to teach on a topic, either of their choice or of my choice if they don't have one. And now I'm more the advisor, and they view me more so than just a loan officer. They're asking questions. They call me when they have questions about their own personal finances, their own personal mortgage. I do a lot of my realtors' personal loans because they look to me as the expert and the advisor role now. So I get a lot of calls even asking about other loans that they've got working in this other mortgage company. They're kind of questioning, they're second guessing them, so they'll call me for some backing on that or to answer anything that they have that's going south on another deal. So the group trainings were huge for lead generation. I used to do refinance, 100% refinance, subprime, and we did mail drops, we did email blasting, we did everything back when fax blasting was legal. So we were a strictly inbound call center lead company. We had leads we were buying from Leads 360. We were buying leads from lowermybills.com and LendingTree. So we went from strictly buying leads to now we buy 0 leads and everything is self-generated. So if you're buying leads, you definitely need a great CRM that tracks those and inputs those and distributes those to you or your staff. If you're doing referrals, then you just need to find a good management software where you can input your client or after the closing. So, that's kind of what I have to say on lead generation and where you can maximize your efficiency there.
Absolutely. All right. John, I'm going to jump over to you, and I'm going to leave it kind of open-ended because I know over your career you've done a bunch of different stuff from a lead generation standpoint, I'm sure. But I also know you have some expertise in the area of contact management systems and really how to keep those relationships fresh and maybe a unique way from the rest of the panelists here. So, John, why don't you go ahead and hop in and kind of share your thoughts?
Well, I think, one of the things that comes to mind is you've got to reach out to your client database. I've never bought a lead. I've never gotten one from a lead source. It's always been my clients. So that's, a way to reach out to them on a weekly and monthly basis. We've been part of Mortgage Market Guide for years. I've sent out that newsletter. I've got a corny Valentine's Day card that just went out. I can't tell you. I probably got 10 people responding to this crazy Valentine's Day card that went out from an email, and I sent out birthday cards. My team or myself will call every one of our clients on their birthday. So, just trying to keep in touch with them on a friendly basis, but also then, but to be honest, just waiting for that phone to ring is just not going to do it right now. You're not going to cut it with the way the rates have gone. So I've got to go out and proactively build my business and as well as my sales team. So we've got this 2+2+2 strategy. I've seen these crazy programs where people have to go out and make all these millions of calls and things, and I just know that we're salespeople. Not that we're lazy, but if we have ways to do business effectively, we're going to do it. So I just tell my team and myself, and this is what I do, I want to make at least 2 new outgoing calls a day to my customer base. Just 2 calls, not ones that are coming in, not returning a call, but 2 fresh calls to my customer base. And then have coffee or lunch with 2 of my clients, each referral partners, VIPs each week. And then attend 2 major networking events, whether it's a real estate board meeting, a chamber of commerce meeting, something to do with a BNI meeting if you have that. But just, those that turns into 43 new calls, 10 face-to-face, 2 events. It's 55 more face-to-face or contacts each month times 12. It's 660 new ways of reaching people by just doing a couple of things each day, a couple of things each week, a couple of things each month. And so it's kind of an easy way to do it without overwhelming yourself, because the one thing none of us have more of is time, and we're just trying to be more effective. And but I've used, you talk about CRMs, we've got ones that send out videos and keep them in touch with our loan officers. We now have ones that I've got a new CRM that we're using that will reach out to it does unbelievable real estate open house sheets, and it'll do like single property email set up sites for them so that they can post it to our Facebook and all of that. And the other thing I started using too, it's another company called Hearsay to try to reach social media, where it goes out and we have wins for our company that we'll put on, and it goes to our LinkedIn, our Twitter, and our Facebook account. And you just set it up, you pre-set it up ahead of time, and this company will populate and send that stuff out to your Facebook. And it's geared to our company, so it's not something I think that everybody else has seen. And but they will find articles and things, and it's all compliant. So I'm trying to reach every way I can to try to generate some leads right now, as well as kind of reaching out, which I think I'll talk a little bit more about, is using the an annual review, which I think is the best way to reach your clients on a deeper level.
All righty. All right. So let's take a little bit of a shift in gears. By the way, panel attendees, I've posted a poll question to just find out, what are the solutions you're most wanting help with implementing as we kind of look towards moving from the conversation about what to do to how to do it. It's kind of the next transition here that we're going to be making. I'm going to kind of ask an open-ended question, and panelists, if you want to, kind of give me some feedback as to if you want to jump in on any of these ideas or topics. The next couple of areas are either one, lead capture and conversion, or two, the systemization and capacity growth issues. So team or panelists, if you guys have any additional, insight or thoughts that you guys would like to share, either give me a flag or a heads up, or just jump right on in and start sharing here. With ways to overcome those two additional layers of challenge. I mean, again, remember, it's all about finding the solutions to the challenges and obstacles, and when it comes to what are you looking to overcome? Any insight, guys, on the biggest obstacles or how to overcome the obstacles in the area of lead capture conversion? By the way, there's one particular question from a panelist here I'd love to get everybody's insight on, which is how do we deal with the recent surge in rates and the kind of sticker shock that that's creating for, for borrowers? How are you guys handling that? I guess keep some organization to this. Why don't we just go ahead and go with Patty? Why don't you go ahead and chime in first on that, and then anybody else who wants to jump in along the way, go ahead and let me know.
Well, it's definitely been fun, to say the least. But I think what we have to differentiate ourselves is from the competition. One of the answers on there was to you're the professional. You educate your borrower. You educate them on what the market's doing. You keep them up to date. I'm very transparent when I'm pricing, and I show my clients my rate sheets and my pricing. They at that point can choose if they want to do discount points or premium pricing for rebates or whatever. But I make it their choice, and there has to be a trust level there. And I very rarely get people who are rate shopping once I've had that contact with them. If it's sometimes internet communication and stuff, it doesn't have the same effect. But especially if they're face-to-face and I introduce them to my team and what we do and how we do that and what service they can expect, don't usually have a problem selling the rates.
All right. So if anybody else has some unique insight on this, I was thinking I was going to go to Lisa and ask her kind of thoughts on it. She's in a little bit of a unique market coming out of a credit union after 26 plus years, now being in, for the first time, a little bit over a year in an independent origination multi-source lending environment. Lisa, how are you handling questions with affordability and rates increasing at the level that they have, particularly with your unique customer base?
Right. Well, rates are going to come and rates are going to go. They're going to go up and they're going to go down. Historically, we're still at a really good level, and I just remind people of that. As rates increase, the economy is getting better and people are able to afford more. So maybe, I just remind them of all of that and educate them, as well as, I'm a big one for educating what are points and what are not. How do you buy points down, and is it a good deal, and is it a not good deal? Educate them about each product that you are. Are we back? Okay. Educate them about the product that you're looking into. If they qualify for several different products, we just make sure that I educate what the best one would be for their situation. If they are, most homes, obviously we know that most first-time home buyers only stay in their home 5 to 6 years. So would an adjustable rate mortgage be better? Would a program with a grant to help with down payment assistance be better? So I just really get in and individualize and focus more on the products that we have available for their situation that each one's going to be a little bit different. And get in there. Rates, I have not had an issue. I don't focus on rates. People that want to rate shop for an 8th are not educated people that are knowing what's going on in the industry and what products are out there and what you're actually doing for them. So just educate them on what you can offer them as an originator. Do you have short, show your strengths. We here can close within 15 days if we need to. 20 if, very, very easily. And so I just make sure I let them know the positives, the strengths, what we can do for them, and rate has never come up and never been an option. I mean, never been an obstacle for us or for me here.
Okay, guys. All right. So the next person I'm going to kind of go to on this one, and John, I'm going to give you a 2-minute limit because I know you've got a ton of value to share, but I want you to crunch it down for me as far as how you're handling with your clients. For those of you who don't know, John is kind of a student of the market and really focuses a lot of energy on how to communicate with borrowers and set expectations, being proactive versus reactive. So John, why don't you go ahead and hop in and share your thoughts on the issue?
On the rate, the rate shopping part, I'm just confused. Can you just repeat what you wanted me to share it on exactly?
Well, the rate shopping part and how to deal with the situation that rates have climbed about a point in the last 60 days or so, and what that means from a sticker shock and qualifiability perspective on how you're handling it.
I actually have talked about it even recently, but even throughout my whole life. I love the no point, no closing. I've never understood why someone would want to pay me closing costs to buy a rate down. Like it would take them 5 years to recoup. So I kind of go into that with them that they're not going to be in the loan this long. And I let them know that we've hit 103 or very close to it in 2013, 2014, 2015. Every time we've hit that, European markets come in, they've started buying. It may or may not happen this year with the kind of buying we've seen over the last 3 or 4 years where the rates have come back down and gone down a point, but they're going to come down a quarter, a half. And I'm going to be right there for my clients to help them refinance again when that rate comes down. So I talk to them about that. I do mention about I love adjustables. I go into the whole fact that it's like magic, that not only your adjustable is lower, your payment's lower, but inside that payment, more goes towards your principal. So when you're looking at, a saving a point going to a 10-year adjustable, and a 10-year is a lifetime with my clients in a loan. You might be in the house. I've been in my house since '96, but I've been in 6 mortgages, and some fixed, some adjustables. It really depends on where we're at the time. But right now, as the fixed rates are climbing, I think a 10-year adjustable or a 7-year or longer-term adjustable is a great option. And just let them. You can show them. I use, we have tons of different ones. There's Mortgage Coach. There's all different kinds of products out there where you can break down and show them how much more principal is paid on a lower interest rate loan. And so that's the way we go into it. And then I know that even though the best of us are going to get shopped right now, I mean, it's just you can go onto the internet and they're going to get, it's crazy. You go on AOL and send out anything that says mortgage, all of a sudden Quicken sends you something back. It really annoys me. So one of the biggest things that I've been trying to educate my clients about is the trigger leads, and it's something you should educate all your clients on too, is have them go to optoutprescreen.com. Make sure that they opt out from having their credit information shared. It's unbelievable. That I believe is the biggest part of the Equifax leak. It was actually rumored that that's where it came from. But I tell them I'm going to help you get rid of 70 pieces of junk mail. They're going to call your phone. I've been sitting here watching all these phones come through my muted phone, and knowing that it's all just solicitations, billing and stuff. It's not real they're not real calls because they've got that capture from the credit bureaus that So, but what happens is as soon as you lock in that loan and pull that credit, somebody else is getting that information, sending your client another whole application, including the lender they're at right now. So we're all great. I think I'm worth an eighth, sometimes a quarter. But when Chase sends out to my clients that they can just sign a piece of paper and get that 3/8 lower in rate, I think we're all going to have a little bit of a tough time trying to sell around that. So you've got to protect your database and make sure that and protect your client at the same time and make sure they opt out to stop those trigger leads from trying to grab your business before you even have a chance to even underwrite the loan.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, thinking about the other layer of this, the third layer, and just for the interest of time, by the way, audience, if you want to continue to chat in, if you have specific questions for any of the panelists, again, just put the preface of the name of the panelists that you'd like more information or feedback from, or by the way, you can click on the the Q&A or group chat and deal with sharing some information with us as well. At this stage, I think we're going to shift over a little bit to just how do you deal with the information overload effect? We all get to those points where we just feel like we're ready to pull our hair out. We've been running around like a chicken with our head cut off, going crazy all day long. And, we're at 6 or 7 o'clock at night and we look back and try to think of anything we've actually really accomplished, even though we feel like we've been really busy all day. And the answer usually is not much. How have you guys all dealt with the, and actually before I do that, before I ask the question, let me ask the question. How often, how have you guys dealt with that massive capacity growth and when you've hit those ceilings of where you feel like you're just going insane and not keeping up? Let me go ahead and start on that one with Lisa. So you know what? Let me go back to Eddie on that one. Eddie, why don't you go ahead and chime in for us here, share your thoughts on how to deal with the capacity challenge and information overload situation.
Well, Eric, I'm still wondering that myself since I showed up at 4:30 this morning to work just to put in some extra time. I still have some long days, but I can tell you this, and I read recently that being a mortgage originator was one of the most rewarding jobs that you could possibly have. So I get a lot out of it, and I think that takes away from the hours. I'm not a very organizationally motivated person, as you know, being my coach for so many years. But one of the things that I work on daily is cutting out the excess noise and trying to focus in on what I'm doing that directly relates to my clients and what I'm doing to generate money for my family, my work family, and the company I work for. So that's just a little bit of how I deal with it. Is I know I get a lot out of it, and so it's very rewarding for me.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to go to Lisa on this one. Lisa, how did you deal with the information overload and capacity management challenge? How did you break through those barriers?
Well, there's a couple of things I can say here, but when I hit my capacity, sometimes just walking away for 10 minutes and clearing your head makes a huge difference. My office is right on the river, and so sometimes just walking outside and taking that breath of fresh air and coming back is a huge focus. But also, for me, is shutting off any social media on your cell phone is huge, and just focusing in on what you're doing with emails, phone calls, making lists for me of in the morning, if I know I have a top 5 list of what I need to do in that first hour, I have that. I make a list of it and I do it. I feel accomplished, and it sets a tone for me for the day. It sets a tone for me today, and I can keep running. But when we talked earlier about the capacity and hitting a max capacity of how, if you don't have an option to hire staff, and I did not have an option to hire staff at my last job, I had to make that determination that job was no longer a good fit for me at that environment, and I had to make that choice of leaving to a place that could handle my capacity and is willing to put some resources in for help. So I had to quit my job and go to after 28 years, to go to a different financial institution that could handle my capacity and is willing to hire that staff to help. So I forgot to tell you that earlier and to mention that. Not an easy decision to do for people, and I don't want them to take that lightly. But when you hit that capacity and you don't know what else to do and you've exhausted all of the attempts, that is an option.
Absolutely. And guys, what Lisa may or may not be sharing, well, I'll tell you because she may struggle to get it out without choking up. Because her and I have talked very personally about this, and the reality of it is the new environment has given her a lot of additional flexibility, a lot of different capacity options. And not only did she make about the same money this year as the previous year when she was at the credit union, but she's also worked roughly 15 to 20 hours less a week and has a lot more control of her environment with the additional support resources that she has now that she didn't have in the past. I'm going to shift gears to Patty. You have a unique experience in this respect, and you and I've joked about the time and task management concerns or things that we're working on or improving. So how did you kind of work around the difficulties of? I mean, obviously you're dealing with a ton of volume. You have a complicated structure of a grouping of borrowers who have some tough loans. I mean, for example, what's your pull-through ratio on average pre-qual to closing?
I go through a lot of credit reports before we get a loan. We are in a very blue-collar community where we do have, we're oilfield country. We do have a lot of very difficult loans, a lot of business. And so, and most of our people here come into the office. They're face-to-face. We're just now this year starting to see a lot of the internet applications and things of that sort. So we're loving all of that and uploads and all that. But I have to have a team to be able to help capture that business and be able to give them a good level of service. And I do have a couple of team LOs, and I have several processors and document coordinators, which the document coordinators, what they do in essence is collect the documents from the clients once we've pre-qualified them. So I have a system of the way that we go through where everyone has, almost like when you're building a car, when it's going through that conveyor belt, that assembly line, everyone has their piece. And so when you're doing as much volume, everyone has their piece, and they master that, and they get really good at doing that piece. So it goes faster. Instead of one person trying to do 20 different tasks, you break that up into smaller tasks. And my system with my team has worked out really well that way. We're constantly tweaking it because as we grow, we have to grow that team. And from a high level of view, I have to be able to look to see where I need improvements, where the bottlenecks are, and it's a continual struggle to keep the train engine going at full speed ahead. So as we grow, as the market changes, as new products come in, new products go out, we have to stay on top of all of that. But I do have LO assistants that help with structuring, pre-qualifying, somebody else that collects documents, somebody else that preps it for processing, and once we get a contract come in, and then we have processors that take that on. We have a setups person that orders title and appraisal. So it's a very delicate system, but it works really well. And it's I don't want anybody to think that doing 50 loans with one person, it's just not possible. You've got to be able to invest back into your business, and it is probably the most rewarding job on the planet, I believe. Not only because we get to help people get into their homes, but the people that we're able to help in our business have good careers, and my team have a job that they love, and helping people. I mean, I love that. So it is a very rewarding position to be in, and it's challenging, but it's very rewarding.
Yeah, definitely. So the last person in here I'm going to ask to chime in just a little bit is Brandon. Brandon, your thoughts on capacity management and avoiding the chaos and getting beyond the scurrying and hurrying approach to doing business reactively. Your thoughts? Where'd you go? Oh. All right, it looks like Brandon's having a a second to get back on track. Well, guys, one of the things I'll remind you while we're waiting for Brandon's microphone to open back up, go ahead and chime in, and don't forget, guys, audience attendee members on the call, go ahead and chime in with the Q&A. What specific issues or challenges do you need or want more help with? Just before we get into the solution, the final implementation mode component of today's thing, anything and everything you want or need or are looking for guidance and support from these top producers to give you feedback and input on that's going to help you grow your business faster, go ahead and chime in. By the way, you guys can use the group chat for that as well to interact with your peers on the webinar platform as well. Brendan, can we hear you now?
Can you hear me? We're good? Okay. So what I was saying is a quote out of your book, Eric, being proactive and not reactive. That was a big thing for me. I've probably had 42 phone calls and probably that many text messages since we started this call. And knowing that I can't get to everything at that moment and prioritize. So, I've got to immediately stop everything I'm doing, and the night before, I need to make my day lined out with what's most important, what is money-making activities, what are the priorities, and the higher level items that need to be taken care of. And then I need to delegate what goes to my staff. Delegation is huge because, again, once you've hired the right staff, you've trained them, you need to be able to use them so you can, get the work capacity done. You're not going to do 20, 30, 40 loans a month by yourself. It's not possible anymore with the amount of paperwork that is required to do a mortgage and all the pieces that go into it. So, but one thing, too, I go back to all the time, there's no secret. Absolutely no secret to this. I work 7 days a week, 10, 12-hour days, and you have to outwork your competition. There's 1,000 other mortgage brokers out there in your town that want to do business, that want to wine and dine realtors. What's going to set you apart? Figure out what makes you unique or how you're, and then you've got to be willing to outwork them. So you organize your time, you hire the right people, and again, you work. And your people need to see you, that you work alongside of them, you work as hard or harder, so that way they want to work for you. You need to be the general that's alongside of them in battle, and they want to go to war for you. And, my people know we were here till 9 o'clock last night. I was the last one to leave, walked out with one of my guys. If they're putting in the effort, I'm going to walk right alongside of them. So, you've got to always kind of be that servant mentality as well as the leader. You serve your people as a leader. So that's the biggest thing. I mean, there's no secret to the success, and there's no secret to breaking through that capacity. You've got to manage your time decently. And that's still probably one of my biggest, my biggest challenges is handling all the different things that come at me from every different angle, because as a small, my goal is to grow this into a couple hundred employees and a several $100 million company. The only way to do that is obviously delegation, but there's always going to be fires to put out. There's always going to be something urgent that's going to fall in your lap. And so being able to handle those urgent matters, but then get back on task, that's still a challenge every day for me. So, that's probably what I would put into that question.
All right, guys. Well, we are coming up on the last 7 minutes or so. So, audience, go ahead and chime in with any thoughts that you would like to share or any information that you would like additional follow-up with. Obviously, we had a pretty broad range of stuff to cover, and we likely will be doing future webinars where we will be drilling down deeper into each of these smaller components and categories. But anything that you would like additional input, anything that's a major struggle for you right now in your business, what's your biggest obstacle to growing? What is the biggest challenge that you as audience members are experiencing, so that even if we need to follow up with you after the event, we want to keep the conversation going, and we want to continue to create access. If you guys want to have input or access to any of our panelists, feel free to just chime in with the Q&A. We'll follow up. We'll give you some additional information here in just a bit. In the meantime, there's one other thing I wanted to do for all of you, which is to share with you something to consider here. In fact, if you want to go ahead and open up the slide view panel, you'll get a little bit different perspective on this.
Hey, Eric, are you still there?
Yes, guys. Hey, guys, thank you again for taking a few minutes with us today. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to share great tools and strategies that all of these amazing panelists have put together. Panelists, we're going to be sharing final thoughts. I'm going to ask each of you to kind of think about, if you could go back in a time machine to the you of your first couple of years in the business, what would you most wish that you had shared? Audience, as you're thinking about that, start thinking action planning. What's the number one thing you need to be implementing over the next 60 days to kickstart your business? As we go through the panelists, I'm going to start with Lisa. Lisa, why don't you kind of share with the audience as kind of a final thought? What do you wish you had learned in the first couple of years of your business?
First of all, be a sponge. Learn as much as you can from those that you respect in the business. And then integrity. Be honest. Be upfront with your clients at all times. And I was, but sometimes I sugarcoated it and maybe didn't get as direct as I should. So I wasn't as forthcoming with the information as maybe I could have been. And so just be direct. Be upfront with the good and the bad of the file. And so just be honest, be upfront, and be a sponge.
Absolutely. Eddie, what would you like to share? I mean, if you could go back to your first couple of years, what would you tell yourself to do right away first up?
In the first couple of years, right away, first up is I would have probably have made more of a detailed plan and implemented in small increments to continually build on that plan. The power of consistency would probably have made more of an impact that something I do now that I didn't do before that I think would have helped me be more successful faster.
Awesome. All right, Patty, you're up. Final thoughts you'd like to share with the audience before we close out here?
Two things. I wish I would have done a better database and a better job of keeping my database. As I've gone through some changes, I've lost clients throughout the years that would be golden. And then I wish I would have just sought help earlier on in my career. I could have maybe hit some of my milestone goals a little bit sooner. So that's what I would recommend.
Awesome. All right. So, Brandon, final thoughts. What would you share with the audience what do you wish you had learned your first year in the business?
Okay, yeah, being from sports and workout background, I get asked a lot of times, by younger people, nutrition and everything. So same thing I tell them, I would tell myself in this, is I would hire a coach, somebody that's going to teach you and show you the right things. I really do believe in that first, because you don't always see what you're doing right or wrong. From an outside perspective, they can point out a lot of things. There's also, from sales coaching to business coaching, I think you need to look into those things, because that's a key thing. That when I made the transition from going strictly refi to purchase business, and I would definitely focus on building a purchase database, a purchase pipeline, and a purchase sphere, because like you guys were talking about the rate spike recently, I'm not worried about it at all, because 90% of my business is now purchase. When my business was 90% refi, I'd be having a heart attack today. So, the purchase market is much more sustainable through the market fluctuations, and rates won't just kill a deal if it goes up an eighth of a point. So I would definitely tell myself, first, get the coaching, get the business development, and then I would also tell myself to save more money. Keep your expenses and things much lower, and that way you have more money to invest in the business and investing in hiring the right personnel, purchasing the software and the systems and the equipment that can also streamline your business. So I think money and coaching would be two of the things I would do completely differently if I could go back. I wouldn't buy the boats and the motorcycles and the places on the river and be a 21-year-old kid blowing money. Instead, I would have saved half of that money and reinvested it in my business and in my growth and development. And we'd be light years ahead of where we are today. So that would be my advice to myself.
Awesome. John, I'm going to close out with you. What advice, guidance, or support would you wish you had learned, your first couple of years in the business?
You definitely don't want to ever overpromise and underdeliver. I love that Zig Ziglar saying that you've got to eat the frog. I mean, you should be the one delivering the bad news. And what I've learned a long time ago is I never blame my staff. I don't blame underwriters. I blame myself. It's amazing when you say, "Oh, it's my fault. I did this. I apologize." they're always trying to defend you, your clients. So you've got to take the bullets, and that's the thing. When you start blaming other people, blaming other parts of your team or your underwriters, you're going to lose credibility. And you've got to learn to build trust immediately on the phone. I do that with that opt-out pre-screened script that I send to my clients. I talk to them. It's not a script. I actually believe that they should do things like that. But always try to find a way to make your client's life better. And I don't talk about rates or anything like that like you talk about. I just always try to find a way that I can help them first and give to them, and be an aspirin, not a pain in the you-know-what. So that's a very important to do, and something you've got to learn right away. And again, and I taught my son this as well, but the other part about the frog is when you talk to your clients, you talk about their family, you talk about their recreation, their occupation, their goals, more than just the loan, and explain why you're putting them in a certain loan, and become that financial, debt manager, and not just someone that said, here's your rate, here's your 2 points. Explain why you're doing it, and explain the next loan you're going to do for them. I always talk about the next loan I'm doing for my clients, and I usually get the next loan and the next loan and the next loan. So that's the thing you've just got to remember is build that and keep your database. Oh, my gosh. I remember hearing a seminar last week. I was listening in on it and always learn. But they said, if you don't contact your database, you hate money. And it's so true. You've got to all become laser focused on doing annual reviews. Your clients want to hear from you. Pick up the phone, call them, and, Eric, you're great on preaching, what to ask them about when they're looking for a new home or right sizing or having friends or family that are renting, trying to busting out at the seams. You're going to find someone you can either help with getting a loan or refer to one of your financial planners, someone. I have them rate their financial planners. There's all sorts of technology now to help with that type of capture and things like that. So I didn't have that 32 years ago. We just had fax machines, and those were brand new. But, I still handwrite all my applications. I know it's crazy. You tell me it's not taking an application, but I do. I give it to my but I love all the new stuff. We have Blend that allows them to go online and take those applications. Just be careful using too much technology and relying on it, because your clients still want to hear from you, and they certainly want to hear from you if it's bad news or good news. So let them know both. And I even use videos now and welcome them to their home. It's called BombBomb. It's really cool. So I'm an old guy that always trying to learn new tricks, and it's not a trick. It's actually, sincerely wish them to the new house. Send them a video. Pick up the phone and call them. I send thank you letters by hand every day. And so stuff like that you'll do well in the business if you really, truly, do this. You're not out to just make money at it.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, a big round of applause to our panelists. Thank you for all the wonderful information you shared. Audience, remember there's still an opportunity here to get your last couple of questions in, pop them into the Q&A, and we will make sure that we follow up with you after the event. One last thing I encourage all of you to do, and just I want to encourage you to take some action with the ideas you've heard. Whatever the best idea is you've heard, now it's time to put it into action. Ideas don't have a whole lot of value unless they actually get implemented. And by the way, there was a Brigham Young University study back in 1993 that indicated if you do 4 specific things, you're guaranteed a 95% or better chance of actually following through. So take 30 seconds just before you jump into that next phone call or that stack of emails that have piled up, and do something with this time you've invested in this process today. What was the most valuable thing you heard? What steps do you need to take step by step to get that idea implemented? By when do you want to have those steps completed with target deadlines? And then who are you going to share that action plan with and ask them to hold you accountable to following through on that action plan? If you do those 4 things, you've got a 95% or better chance of completing those objectives. With that being said, we're going to close it out with just a short little video. Panelists, thanks again for your time and energy today. We will look forward to seeing you on the next edition of the Business Development Workshop and this Originator Connect Network series. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.